Hey folks, I'm Matt Doyle, MLSsoccer.com's Armchair Analyst, back with another episode of Between the Lines, our second episode in the Soccer Jargon 101 series. Today, we're going to do a numbers to positions translator. And what I mean by that is sometimes you'll be watching a game and one of the commentators will say, he's a big, strong number 9, or what a creative play from the number 10. What exactly does that mean? I'm here to tell you. In soccer jargon, the number 9 is the center forward, usually a big, strong target forward. These players have two main responsibilities other than, of course, scoring goals. The first is to win the ball in the air. It's not always the prettiest soccer, and it's a low percentage play, but even low percentage odds sometimes play off, especially when you have a guy like Alan Gordon who could beat the defender, flick it into space, and create opportunities. The second responsibility is to play the ball with their back to the goal. This sucks the defense in towards the number 9, but creates space to exploit for other attackers. Now, target forwards like Gordon, like Blas Perez, Alvaro Saborio, Connor Casey is the most common type of number 9 out there. But there's also the channel running center forward, also a number 9. The best example in MLS is Marco Di Vaio. Unlike the guys I just named, he's not going to spend all his time between the two center backs fighting them physically. Instead, he finds the space on his own, gets there a step ahead of them, and then finishes. Now let's move back into the midfield a little bit and identify the guys who do the dirty work, the defensive midfielders, or, in soccer jargon terms, the number 6. These guys have two primary responsibilities. The first is to protect the back line. That means making sure that the opposing attackers don't get a chance to run directly at the back line with the ball on their foot, forcing the defense to backpedal. This is always bad if you're a defensive team. It's the D-mid's job, the number 6's job, to prevent that. The second thing is to win the second ball in midfield. Recoveries have a direct correlation to winning, especially in MLS. If your team wins that 50-50 ball, picks up that second ball, you're giving yourself a good chance of coming out on the right side of the scoreboard. And it's no mystery that guys like Ozzie Alonso, Diego Chara, and Dax McCarty are amongst the league leaders in recoveries year after year after year. Of course, just because they put in the dirty work doesn't mean that they're incapable of a little bit of artistry. The elite number 6s can instantly turn a recovery into an attack. Even if they don't pick up the assist themselves, their ability to put their teammates into advantageous positions is often what separates great teams from merely good ones. We're going to stay in the midfield for our next position, the number 8, or box-to-box midfielder. Now, he's called a box-to-box midfielder. This is a bit of bonus jargon, folks. He's called a box-to-box midfielder because unlike most of the other guys on the pitch, he's not shackled to one particular zone. He can go almost anywhere he wants, from one penalty box to the other penalty box to box. In 2013, there was no more influential number 8 than Will Johnson of the Portland Timbers. Now, he may not necessarily have the creative genius of Diego Valeri, and he doesn't have the defensive chops of Diego Chara, but what he does have is the ability to instantly recognize where he could create an overload, either defensively or offensively on the field. That, in turn, gives the Timbers' entire team an advantage. So think of it this way. Number 8s are problem solvers. And some of the other influential ones besides Johnson out there in MLS are Marcelo Sarves of the LA Galaxy, Hernan Bernardello of the Montreal Impact, and last year at least, Ricardo Clark in Houston. So finally, let's move away from the guys who don't get enough glory to the guys who get all of it. The number 10, the creative genius, the playmaker, the guy whose job it is to take a moment of brilliance and use it to decide a game. The number 10 was worn by Pele and Maradona. It was worn at the dawn of MLS by guys like Marco Echeverri and Carlos Valderrama, who worked primarily in central midfield, central attacking midfielders. In this day and age, they're not shackled to that one spot as much as they have been in the past. We see Landon Donovan wearing the number 10 in LA. We see Federico Higuain wearing the number 10 in 2014 anyway, in Columbus. And of course, we have Benny Feilhaber playing the most traditional number 10 in Kansas City. Of course, you don't have to wear the number 10 to be a number 10. Maybe the best example is in RSL. Javi Morales is a classic number 10 who wears number 11. In Portland, Diego Valeri plays the role of the number 10 while wearing the number 8. And then there's another generation of guys, young playmakers coming up who might fill the role of the number 10 this year or in years beyond. It starts with Mauro Diaz in Dallas. He has big shoes to fill stepping in for David Ferreira, one of the great number 10s of recent vintage in MLS. There's also kids like Kellen Rowe in New England, Luis Gil in Salt Lake City, and Darlington Nagbe, of course, up in Portland. All of those guys I mentioned and a few more beyond have shown flashes of brilliance. But if you want to be the number 10, if you want to be the main playmaker for a great team, it has to be more than flashes. You have to bring it every game. You have to be a creative genius every time out. That'll do it for our second installment of Soccer Jargon 101 here on Between the Lines. If this wasn't quite enough for you, if you'd like a little more detail, click on the links in the description below. We've done entire episodes on each of these positions on the field in the past. And if you're still confused as to why these numbers apply to these positions, come back next week when we take a look at the history of formations.